Welcome to Heber Valley Life. I'm Rachel Kaler, Executive Director of the Community Alliance for Main Street, and we are so excited to welcome our guest, Jonathan Hunt, a good friend of mine. I had the opportunity to work with Jonathan when I was at Soldier Hollow, but we're going to talk about today one of the treasures of our valley, Wasatch Mountain State Park. This park not only is a year-round destination, but it's also a living reminder of the natural beauty that surrounds our community. And I'm thrilled to welcome, Jonathan. Please just tell us a little bit about your role getting to Wasatch because it wasn't a direct line. And you've been at the park for how long?
You bet. Thanks for having me on the show. I feel very blessed to have the job I do at Wasatch Mountain State Park. I showed up about 3.5 years ago, and like you said, it was kind of various stepping stones to get here. Went to school at Utah State and knew I wanted to be in like an outdoor field. Although I loved numbers and wanted to do accounting, I kept falling asleep in classes. So I wanted to work outdoors and got a summer job at Bear Lake State Park. And anyone that's been to Garden City to Bear Lake knows how beautiful that is. They told me, they said, hey, when you graduate, we'd love to hire you on full time. So I worked at Bear Lake right out of college and just enjoyed being around people, being in the outdoors, being on boats, talking to people, campgrounds. You really see the best of people. You get to experience them in, their desired vacation.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with that. I was given the advice when I was up there that to be successful, I needed to promote and move frequently and early in my career. So the goal was told, you want to end up somewhere when your kids are in high school so that they have a hometown. You don't want to be moving your kids when they're in high school. So I quickly promoted to a job at Schofield State Park in central Utah. I loved it, enjoyed the fishing there. I then worked at Huntington and Millsite in Carbon and Emery counties. And we thought we'd found a home. And then we had the opportunity to work at Sand Hollow State Park near St. George in southern Utah. And we bought a forever home there. My wife said, we love the heat, we love the warmth, we like Sand Hollow. And then out of the blue, this job here at Wasatch Mountain came open. And I saw the job posting. I had 10 days to apply. So I went home and mentioned to my wife, I know you don't really want to move, but what do you think of Wasatch Mountain? Let's take a drive up to Midway. And what a great opportunity. We're glad it came open, and the last 3.5 years have been great for us and for our family.
Yeah, I think I met you 6 or 7 years ago at a tourism conference, and I remember you being at Sand Hollow and Laurie Backus introducing us. And so I really felt like when you arrived at Wasatch Mountain State Park, it was meant to be.
Well, we have a saying when we have work conferences of which state park is the best. And I have worked at most of the state parks, and Wasatch is incredible. I think that with the local state parks, with Jordanelle, with Deer Creek, and Wasatch Mountain, it really is an important part of the Heber Valley, and very privileged to be here.
Let's talk about the park itself because I thought it was the largest. It's not. Antelope Island is a couple acres larger, but then Sand Hollow is number 3. So I think it's interesting that you have worked at 2 of the 3 of one of the largest state parks in the state.
Yeah, so when you talk about large, there's a few different things to think about. Is it land mass? Is it amount of visitors? What is large? Is it complexity of an operation? And each park has its own struggles. And I think that when you combine golf at Wasatch Mountain with the 4 golf courses, we are just as busy as any other state park.
That's true. Yeah. But I was thinking about Bear Lake. I mean, Bear Lake is big land mass or big water mass, and a lot of visitors, but mostly a summer, and then you've got snowmobiling in the winter. But Wasatch Mountain State Park truly is a 4 seasons state park.
And that's true. It's a year-round place to come visit, and we're trying to increase those wintertime visitors. Because people kind of focus on that Memorial to Labor Day, but seasons are extending. I remember when when I hired on October, people didn't camp. We would turn the water up in October, and October's coming up here in a couple of days, and we are booked. People, our campgrounds are completely full. They're going to chase that freezing date. And then in the wintertime with our cross country skiing and our snowshoeing and our snowmobiling and all of the events at Soldier Hollow, it really is a full-time winter destination. And there's enough places to stay close by that you can really get out and enjoy Wasatch Mountain year round.
Yeah. It does feel like this time of year, it's exceedingly harder to get golf tee times. As you mentioned, the campground is completely booked out because it's so beautiful. I mean, as the leaves change and that canyon, Snake Creek and Pine Canyon just become the skittle effect with the reds and the oranges and the yellows. How does that affect your team as you come off a busy summer and now you're going into fall and it doesn't let up?
Yeah, if we love this time of year, and it's pretty awesome to see that Pine Canyon is usually a normal, slow road. And the last few weekends, there were people parked illegally all over the place, wanting to take those pictures. It kind of shows a desire that we don't have enough viewpoints, we don't have enough picnic spots, because people want to be in the park when those leaves are changing, and we need to accommodate that to fit them in. But the golf is busy year round. I mean, from the minute we open, people want to be up here. July and August are busy. Um, and it's a good thing to be busy. If we had a complaint at Wasatch Mountain, it's that people can't get tee times.
Right.
You've got to book, the exact time when things open. If you want to book a Saturday or Sunday, you've got to be on the ball, or you're not going to get on the course.
And I heard tea times open at midnight and they're booked. I mean, their husbands tried to do it at 4 or 5 in the morning and it's completely sold out.
Yeah, well, tell them to come golf on a Thursday. But
Well, let's talk about the land mass of Wasatch Mountain State Park. How many acres?
so it's kind of interesting when you talk about how many acres, because there's a lot of land that we kind of own portions of, but it's pretty close to 24,000 acres in all.
Fantastic. It is. It's a preservation of open space.
Exactly. I was actually thinking about what I wanted to share on that. And back in the 1950s, when they got this idea of let's create a state park system, it's very similar to today's open space push. Tomorrow in Midway, they're doing the march for open space. The Frederick de Volksmark is tomorrow. It's almost a similar thing. Is there's a benefit to public open space to preserve it forever, and that's what happened 70 years ago with Wasatch Mountain.
And without that, I really do think a lot of those lower areas would have homes.
Well, and when you read the newspaper articles from back in the day, they said it's a great benefit today in the 1950s and 60s. But it's going to be an even greater benefit in the future. And one of my desires is that when my career is over and the next person takes over, that my kids and grandkids will be able to enjoy Wasatch Mountain the way it was for the reason it was set aside, 7 years ago. That it will still be that gem here in the valley.
Yeah. Let's talk about this recent expansion, 289 acres that the BLM basically transferred from federal land to state land. I mean, is that a big deal? It felt like it kind of happened. There's this Utah State Adjustment Act that allows for the land transfer. Does that impact you at all, or was it just kind of evening up the map?
Well, I love maps. So, and I love just picking up maps and looking at ownership and different boundaries. And most of these parcels, they're all touching or within Wasatch Mountain State Park. There's really no other nearby BLM lands. So there were kind of some pieces that didn't seem to make sense up on the mountain. They're not close to the valley. They're nothing that has a great value to them. They're lands that people already thought were within Wasatch Mountain State Park. So we have great partnerships with the federal government. I really enjoy working with the Forest Service. We share miles and miles of borders up Snake Creek and at Cummings Parkway. And we work well with the Pleasant Grove Ranger District. And to me, it just makes sense that where we have employees living on site, that we oversee those lands. So we don't have great plans to change them. I don't think the average user will even know that this exchange happened.
Yeah, it's true.
Most of them are several miles of hiking to get to them.
So let's talk about the trail development. I think Tracy C. really had the vision for trail development. She was really feisty about getting trails and working with Don Taylor to start the trail development, especially in Dutch Hollow. And I can't believe every time I go there, there's always the help a trail, out there on one of the trails. Dutch Hollow is one of my favorites. I know it's the mountain bikers' best friends with the barrels and stuff, but how hard is it to maintain those trails, and what's the plan moving forward with trail development?
I think it's pretty easy to put in a new trail, right? You grab a shovel or a pick and you go and make a trail. But to have a trail that people enjoy using and to a properly maintained trail is not. It takes a big effort. And that's one of the great things about our community. Like I said, I had never worked at Wasatch Mountain when I got this job, and I showed up in the wintertime. And it was pretty neat as the snow melted. I started seeing signs pop up for the adopt a trail, for the trail crew, the dirt crew that we have. And I wasn't putting these signs up. These were people in the community that were getting these trails ready for use early in the spring. And I quickly learned that the whole valley has adopted these trails and made them what they are. So there's a lot of phenomenal trails. And like I say, our parking lots are not big enough to hold the amount of people that want to enjoy these. And right now we're going through a trails master planning project.
Okay.
Um, in the summer, it was an electronic version where people could draw on a map where they would like to see new trails pop up. Um, and then we've compiled that onto a paper map so people can now come into our visitor center and see those ideas and leave comments saying, "No, I think I want a trail there," or "I think your trail's maybe in the wrong spot. How can we get it down to into my little community?" So we want people to come in and look at the master trails plan. Once we get all of the community feedback, we will uh, kind of do a formal grant process to like actually plan this out and make the appropriate steps to hopefully implement some of those trails.
Do you have a favorite trail?
Well, one of the cool ideas is to put a trail from future trail. I've got a lot of current trails I love, but future trail would be to put a trail from Soldier Hollow to Wasatch Mountain,
Okay.
kind of that western hillside of Midway. There's not currently a trail that connects all of that.
Right.
Ideally, if we were to go back in time, the old irrigation ditches would have been a trail. But now there's so many homes on those hillsides that to put a trail that connects is going to have to go higher on the hill. Right? And we would love to see a trail like that happen. Some of the comments we would love: should it be a hiking, a biking, an equestrian, a single track for motorcycles? Should it be an ATV or side by side trail? How do we want people's opinions? How do we build the correct trail in the right location on that hillside?
Yeah, and I didn't even think about the different users, and they all have an opinion.
And you don't want to build 5 trails in the same spot, one for each user. But we've got some ideas of maybe one location is for equestrian. Maybe you have a multi-use trail that everyone uses, but then you have user-specific trails coming off of that.
So let's talk about Deer Creek Trail, because I know right now UDOT is asking for public input because they wanna hear from people, but because the goal really is to asphalt that trail and connect it to the Vivian Park Trail, which would be a continuation. I mean, that's a governor's kind of mantra is let's connect Utah, especially northern Utah, with the Murdoch Trail, the Vivian Park Trail. This is the missing piece. I rode my bike out there preparing for this because I wanted to understand um, how far. So I went out to the dam from Soldier Hollow. I was on an e-bike, and there were only 2 other gentlemen on the trail. And I thought, "Okay, how much use is this getting from Decker Bay to the dam in reality?" Because it is such a distance. Without an e-bike, I don't see a lot of people running for sure, but I did see a lot of horse remnants. So there's obviously a lot of equestrian going on.
Yeah, the trail goes from the dam at Deer Creek up to Soldier Hollow. But in reality, that same trail system continues down into Crowell Canyon. It's soon going to continue here into Heber City. So that's a piece of a bigger trail project. So there's a community with a open house, I believe is the correct word. It's either next week or the following week here in Heber City where the public can come in and look at UDOT's initial plan.
And why UDOT? Why is this not a state park project?
Well, the trail system goes through a whole bunch of different
And
entities through city, county, state,
private property.
private land. And so because it's a non-motorized transportation project, the funding has gone through UDOT. Now, once the trail is built, it's kind of left up to local community management. Right now, we're leaning towards a county type of management system. So although the initial funding goes through UDOT, it will probably end up more as a county trail
Okay.
through the state park, which should work out pretty well. So that trail system, it depends on when you go. Some mornings there's 100, 200 people on it.
Yeah. I can see a lot of runners, a lot of people exercising. I was there at sunset on a Monday, but it was beautiful, and I can see. I mentioned it to someone, and they said, "No, that's my mountain bike trail. Don't ruin it by paving it."
And pros and cons to everything,
Yeah.
right? So there will definitely, if it ends up being paved, there will be a lot more people that will use it. It will go from 10 people a day to 100, 200, 300. It will bring in a new user group. I think your skinny tire bikers
Yeah.
will hop on the bike to do their 50 or 100-mile rides, and that will be a very popular section. It also opens up the opportunity. It will become a highlight of the valley. I really see that people will come up they'll stay in town, they'll get their Airbnb, and for their afternoon activity, they will hit that trail where they never used to. Now they will. So, will it change? Probably. We want the public's input. There's definitely some hurdles to overcome if that's to happen. And like we say, it's just a preliminary thing. It hasn't been funded. It hasn't been decided, but it seems like that's the correct place to connect the trail system.
Yeah. It makes me remember back when they were planning to asphalt the Cascade Springs. It was a gravel road. It had had some accidents, and UDOT finally came in and said, "We're going to pave this and make it a seasonal road. We're going to close it off." But there was some real pushback from the ATV operators because they said, "Wait, this is our business. This is our industry. We do rentals from here. We get a lot of business, and you're taking that away." And I remember at the time the conversation was, "We will build you a new trail." And I've not been on the new trail, but how has that changed for ATV riders?
There is an ATV trail that is kind of the shoulder of the highway that gets on the mountain. It's kind of a community planning issue where the trailhead used to be at the end of the asphalt, and now it's not. Now you have new homes going up that hillside. So the trail is going along the edge of a new neighborhood. So maybe that trailhead should have been put further on the mountain back in the day, but it was put at the edge of town when it was built.
Yeah.
So people could still
It has built up to
and
that. Right?
yeah, the private property has been developed, and so it's still accessible. But just like this Deer Creek Trail, times change. Sometimes asphalt is the right choice. Will it displace a few people? Well, we're going to try to do our best to not let that happen. Can we build a dirt trail on the shoulder of it? Can we put in an equestrian route along the lake so those people don't have to find a new place to ride? I hope so.
Yeah, and it makes me realize there are so many people that are invested in state parks, and because they are tax funded, they feel like they should have a say in what the state park does.
Well, and honestly, it hurts to see any tech change. I'm a dirt trail guy. I love dirt trails. Not very often will I choose to take an asphalt path. So we'll see how things change.
Yeah. Hey, let's transition to events. So the golf course is busy all the time. You host a lot of corporate events, but you also have the opportunity to host several state amateurs. LPGA event at Soldier Hollow. How do you gear up for that? How does it impact users when you bring in events like that? But what's the advantage to hosting these big events, specifically to golf?
Well, one of the advantages of hosting an event is it's kind of a pat on the back. When these events will choose to come to your facility because of the quality that the course is in. Our goal is that the course is always in great shape, so it shouldn't need a whole lot of ramp up, a whole lot of change to host these events. Sometimes the professional play requires a little different speeds on the greens, so our staff changes the course for that. But the courses are always in good shape and ready for these events. We really try to balance public play versus corporate events or tournaments. We want the public to play the courses. We don't want to turn into the day where we're chasing and then the public never gets on. So we try to do maybe 2 corporate events a week, and the rest of the time is open for public playing. Most corporate events are usually, the morning and lunch hours. The evening is still open play. So that's our goal. We want the public to use the courses.
And then you also host a lot of events at the Visitor Center, and those seem to be more conservation events. Kathy Donnell does a great job with the aviation or no, the birds, the raptors,
Correct.
the raptors.
It's one of the neat things about Wasatch Mountain. The park is a lot different than most state parks. A lot of our state parks are, reservoirs, or boating and shoreline and beach activities. With with Wasatch, we take a lot more of the nature elements. Kathy Donnell does an incredible job. She brings her owls and her raptors and visits the schools and does the programs at the park. Um, People really support that. It's kind of neat to see. We have a local group, the Friends of Wasatch, a volunteer group that raises funds to help with that. Those are the types of projects that people are willing to donate to. They find them incredibly important. The Fish Club is one of those. One of the highlights of Wasatch Mountain is at the end of the school year, these parents sign their kids up to learn to fish and to be at the lake, watch kids learn how to, tie a line, cast in, catch a fish,
And clean that fish.
clean the
Now
fish.
you've got the cleaning station.
It is such a new experience for them, but once they catch on, they love it. They'll then come fishing on their own. It's fun to see kids that will say, "I had so much fun last year, I'm coming back." It's different than a team sport like a soccer or basketball. This fishing really impacts kids' lives, and it's a highlight of the sport,
And a lifelong activity.
definitely. We've got a lot of activities. When you say activities this week, almost every weekend is activities. This weekend, we have a disc golf tournament at our Pine Creek campground. We have a half marathon and 10K on the Deer Creek Trail. You have high school mountain bike races at Soldier Hollow. So almost every weekend, there's some type of event at the state park, and hopefully people can still enjoy the park around those events.
What's the visitation? Do you have any a way to count? I mean, you've got campers, so you know the campground, it's full all the time. Um, do you have a guesstimate?
I'm gonna be honest. I don't look at visitation numbers.
Mm.
I look at overall. You know, did the golf increase? Did the camping increase? Did our trail users increase? I don't know the exact number of people, but we are really doing well. I know that the trend for golf is up, which is fantastic to see. Campgrounds are busier than ever. So is it sustainable? We hope so.
It's the Scotty effect, the Scotty Shepard.
There you go.
People want to play golf like him.
Well, people are still waiting for Tiger Woods to make a comeback.
Well, or to see Tiger Woods on the golf course.
That's right. But will this increased visitation, will it continue? Of course. Will we need to put in more trails, more campgrounds? Probably. And that's our goal, is to do it in the right way and in the right locations of the park.
I want to hit the WOW trail just for a minute because that was such a significant implementation of a trail that I think a lot of people didn't realize the need for it, but the access that it now provides for connectivity between Park City mountain bikers and people here in the Heber Valley. And I can't even remember, it just felt like all of a sudden it was there. Do you I mean, it happened before you came, but talk about that.
It was put in before I showed up, but just the name, wow.
Wasatch over Wasatch.
It really stands out and people want to ride it. And, I was on the trail on Tuesday. I really enjoyed the trail. The parking lots were full. Everyone had lots of smiles. There were some, roughed up elbows and wrists from a couple of accidents.
Oh, and I've gone over the trail on the WOW Trail. It reminded me that I'm probably not ready for the WOW Trail.
Well, it's definitely
It's not a beginner.
it's not a beginner trail, and you lose a lot of elevation. There's a lot of rocks and sharp turns on it. It's mountain biking,
Yeah.
right? If you're doing a 9-mile downhill mountain bike ride, be ready for it, or it can be a long day. But it's a great trail. The views are incredible, and like you mentioned, it really brings people from the valley floor way up into the high Aspens, and we want to connect trails so people can do a longer day. Right now, we're working on completion of a couple trails that will put this trail into Bonanza Flats,
I wonder about that.
and trail is almost ready to ride. It's nearing completion, and I think next spring when it opens, people will love being able to go even further up the WOW and drop into Bonanza Flats, and from there connect down into Summit County into Park City trails. So it really will be a connected trail from Park City to Midway.
Is there too much though of too much love? Is there such a thing as too much love?
We do anticipate a day where we might need to have shuttle systems. Um, we we were talking earlier about some of our federal partners. Are there too many people? We've tried to decide that we always want the public to be able to use these things. Maybe our limitations is on the commercial aspect. We might discourage commercial activities, but encourage the public use. So can we have shuttle systems to get the public to these trailheads so they can continue to use them? You don't want to pave paradise, right? Just so people can mountain bike and trail run, which is my favorite.
Right.
But we do want to get people to those trailheads so they can enjoy them.
Yeah, it's funny. I loved the Bloods Lake Trail. I loved it before the improvements. The improvements really were needed, and I think allowed a really interesting entrance into Bloods Lake. Before you kind of parked above and walked down, now you park below and walk up, and then lots of waxing. If you want to make that extra 3 mile, which is absolutely worth it. But I have seen on social media so much talk about too many people trying to access that. And so now they've implemented the parking fee and made it expensive to the point where I'm like, I don't want to hike to Bloods Lake anymore, even though it's one of my favorite locations, especially in the fall. And it just makes me think, Wasatch Mountain State Park, there isn't a trail that I don't feel like I can, there's no hesitation in going because the access is still there.
When our visitor center there in Midway is kind of the spot for people to stop and ask questions. And one of the questions we get a lot is, we want to hike Bloods Lake. What do you think? Our response is always, good luck finding a parking spot, because if you're not there an hour before sunrise, you're probably not going to be able to park there. So it's extremely busy. And is it the Instagram effect? I'm not a social media person, but the minute someone posts a cool video, everybody wants to go there. And that's what's happened with Bloods Lake. And we're very blessed on the Wasatch side because those crowds have not found our trails. Do we want people to use them? You bet. But do we fear the day when it's too busy? Of course. So right now, if you were to drop over Guardsman's Pass and end up right into that big Cotton Canyon, their trailheads are slammed. And luckily for us, those people are not coming over the mountain as frequently. We're still kind of a hidden gem in that regard.
Yeah. Maybe this podcast will blow out.
Oh,
Hey, I want to wrap up by talking about Heber Grove. I was there, I guess Saturday morning, and I was the first car there, and I parked at an angle because I wanted to show the best way to allow the most cars in, be a good example. But I had a minute to be in the apple orchard and just to walk around and read a couple of the placards that are there. It is truly a magical place, and I think part of it was It's fall. Wasatch Mountain State Park is beautiful, but to read about the historical accounts of the Heber family, um, what do you see as far as the conservation part? This was an area that a family settled, and then that family has continued to maintain and work with the park system in keeping that family history alive. But what's the role for the state park as far as preservation and conservation?
I think that's one of the neat things about the Hoover Grove is it's the community effect. I mean, so many people in Midway and Heber feel a connection to that spot. And there's places like that throughout the valley. And we want people to be able to come out and enjoy that. The Hoover and Probst families have been incredible assets to show their support and their, blood, sweat, and tears to come out and volunteer and help maintain that. We love it when Marie will do her, Swiss presentations during Swiss days and talk about their family experiences and help people pick apples. We love that experience and want that to continue. Um, so we want it to look, as historical as we can. Um, Clearly, those historical projects take a lot of money to bring it back, but we don't want it to go into disrepair. We want it to continue the way it is, and um, have it have that. It's very peaceful. It's very special. We hope to keep it that way.
Yeah, the wild turkeys. It's just me and the wild turkeys.
The turkeys and the deer and uh, a funny story. I'm not sure if you remember. A couple years ago, we had a bear living there.
I did not know that.
The
Did you name this bear?
We figure it was eating these apples and getting drunk all the time because it was there for several weeks
Right.
in and out at the Grove. So we really enjoy the Grove. We think it's one of the neatest places to experience nature and just the peace of the Midway.
How do you do the wildlife? You're there living on site, so you get to deal with 24-hour problems. I know moose are frequent, deer always, the wild turkeys, skunks, the raccoons. Like, do you love it? Is it part of the challenge?
Well, I think that when we have a bad winter and everyone in town sees the mountain lions on their Ring doorbell cameras, they experience what Wasatch Mountain is year round. We have cameras on the golf courses, and we see these animals moving throughout the night. It's definitely a wild place, but not very often do we have issues with it. When a bear comes down into the campground and sees a person, they turn and run away pretty quickly.
Yeah.
The raccoons, they're gonna get into the garbage cans. They're gonna get into into the picnic tables if you leave food out. Not very often do we have issues with them. The biggest problem is the wasps. I'm not sure if that's how Wasatch High School got its name, but the wasps this year have been unbelievable and quite a nuisance.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think of that. Good old Wasatch Wasp. That probably is where the logo, their mascot came from.
But we enjoy being part of nature and living there with my wife and kids. It is just a true blessing, and we're excited to see that the deer coming back after a few hard winters. Wasatch is open to hunting, so it's fun to see people in the next few weeks heading up there to look for deer, and it's a great place to enjoy the outdoors.
Is there any conflict between hunters and mountain bikers?
We tend our biggest conflict is usually in the spring. There's a spring turkey hunt.
Okay.
And so when the mountain bikers are really excited to hit those foothills, that's also where the turkeys are at. So our biggest conflict is probably the turkey hunters more than anything, where they'll want to be out at sunrise and a hiker like yourself is out and you come up upon someone carrying a shotgun. It's a little startling, but we've never had issues. It's just kind of that initial, wait, we're both on the same trail. One of those experiences, but everything tends to work out pretty well.
I'm curious, what's your favorite part about being the park manager at Wasatch Mountain State Park?
Well, this is a little selfish, but I enjoy the trails so much. There's a lot of days I do a morning hike and I'm doing an evening hike. I love the sunrises. I love the sunsets. I love being out after dark and seeing the stars. And I have secret trails that I'll take friends on, and I tell them, "You got to promise never take anyone else on this trail."
And then
It's been invited. We'll see if that ever comes, but definitely get out, enjoy the park because it is spectacular.
what's one thing that you wish the public knew about Wasatch Mountain State Park?
Um, I don't. I think people already understand that our staff is incredible. I think it's really easy to think, well, a government employee just does their thing, but our golf employees are top notch and could get jobs at any golf course throughout the state, and that's why the courses are in such great shape. Um, Kathy Donnell is an incredible asset. If you haven't experienced Kathy's brilliance, you need to. When you bring kids, when you spend 5 minutes with her, it is something you don't forget. Like, it is one of those meetings you say, "You remember when you were with Kathy 10 years ago?" Kids remember that. And so, when you lend a hand, when you pick up after yourself, when you leave the campground better than you found it, we really appreciate that.
I love that. Well, Jonathan, you really do have a dream job. But I know that it comes with a lot of late night, hard weekend, busy times that you're painting this beautiful picture, but there's a lot of work that goes into what you do.
Well, and I wouldn't trade it, but it is a constant reminder that there is life outside of work. It's good to go home and still be a dad, still be a husband, and put work to the side. But I wouldn't trade it. I would definitely encourage other people to apply for it. It's been great for me.
I love it. And I had an opportunity to be a Wasatch Mountain State Park employee at the golf course and can attest that they really are great people. They love what they do and they stay there because it's a great environment and a lot of fun. So I want to thank you for the work that you do. This program is really about community builders, and you're one of those. You're creating an environment of recreation, conservation, preservation that wouldn't be possible without the Wasatch Mountain State Park.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So thanks for being here and thanks for listening. As always, Heber Life Podcast, we're so grateful for the Gordon Law Group for allowing us to be in this beautiful studio and for Heber Life Magazine, Heber Valley Life Magazine for the work that they do to promote the community and just be a positive voice in our community. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.